Okay, boys, we're gonna do this one like this. So, there is a secret disability that is absolutely killing men, and it's keeping them from becoming the man who they could be. I want to talk about that today. I even got my notes. I'm going to reference that as we go through the conversation because through this process, I'm still getting these YouTubers pumping. I'm trying to figure out the best way possible to deliver the most value. And actually, as I think and look at myself during this process, I'm also trying to become a better speaker. So not only am I trying to articulate things with more depth, more relatability, but I'm also trying to just make sure that the message flows in a way that gives the most value to the viewer. So with that said, I want to just jump into the problem, the disability, the secret disability, which is actually a superpower. The disability would be the lack of vulnerability. The superpower would be the ability to be vulnerable. And most men struggle with this. Most men struggle with vulnerability because the way they grew up, they had a father who was emotionally unavailable, or they were taught that they have to be the tough guy. They can't cry. And when they went to school, they typically hung with the jocks, the boys who played sports. And we were the guys who were typically calling everybody else pussies. So if you cried, you were soft. If you were in theater, you were not cool. You weren't one of the bros, but typically it was actually the guys who had more girlfriends than not. Typically it was the guys who were in theater and some of those more expressive hobbies that actually had more depth and more, they were typically more in tune with their own emotions. But most of us, we grew up in this, you're the man, you gotta be hardcore, you gotta, whatever you're feeling, you gotta keep it to yourself, you gotta be tough, you gotta push through, you can't cry, all that type of stuff. So what that did was from an early age, men were taught to suppress their emotions because society deemed it unmanly to express your emotions. And so that started as a young boy for a lot of us. It started as an early age, and then that only continued to be a practice, to be a behavior that was carried on through the rest of that man's entire life. So it started with the boy was in school, he got bullied, and he suppressed that pain that he was feeling because he was being rejected. It continued when he got broken up with, his heart was broken, he was facing so much depression, but he didn't want to look like the soft guy, so he kept that pain to himself. It also continued when he was dealing with the anxiety of not knowing where to go with his career, of feeling completely purposeless in his later life as a young adult. But instead of looking to other men to help him along with that journey, he internalized it, tried to figure it out himself, or just suppressed that pain and continued to go through life not enjoying any of it, not finding fulfillment, and actually running from the reality of his situation, leaning heavily on vices. And now all of a sudden you get to a place where men are in their early 20s. You get to this place where men are in their early 20s, mid 20s, late 20s, early 30s, and they have no concept of their own emotions. And this is not just about expressing your emotions and being vulnerable to other people, but vulnerability starts with being vulnerable to yourself. And if I can't express my own emotions and understand my own emotions myself, then I cannot actually express those to other people. If you look at all the greats, like I'm a big sports player, I played sports my whole life, football, basketball, baseball in high school and leading up to high school, and then I played Division I football in college. So I was always around that team environment. And when I look at some of the greats, when you look at like Tom Brady, I grew up in Massachusetts, best quarterback of all time. When you look at some of the best fighters, Mike Tyson, think about Conor McGregor. Even when you think about some of the best entrepreneurs, when you think about Jeff Bezos, there's a guy I really admire, his name is Ed Mylett. All of the top performers, none of what they've become was done by themselves. Who the top performers became only was due to them investing in others and building teams. And it's the same with your emotions and understanding them and also healing from them and building a mastery over your emotions requires you to invest in other people who are going to point you in the right direction, who have already walked through the experiences and the pain you've had, and who can help you overcome them and master those emotions that you haven't yet been able to mature from. So that's this external vulnerability. But really what's holding men back from that place, first and foremost, is they haven't even become... The thing that's holding men back from being vulnerable with people outside of them is the fact that they haven't been vulnerable with themselves. And vulnerability starts with, okay, I'm going to stop, I'm going to look at myself, I'm going to observe myself, and then as I actually start to realize the reality of my emotions, I'm going to accept them, because when I accept that I'm depressed, or I'm anxious, or I'm overwhelmed, now I can decide what I need to do to overcome that. I can decide what needs to happen to remove the negative emotions, or what action I need to take to overcome them. And most men, because they've grown up in a place where they were taught to suppress their emotions, they were taught to be the tough guy, to not cry, what they do is they suppress their emotions, so they don't even know what they're feeling. A guy gets dumped, he's absolutely heartbroken, and the reason he's blacking out and smoking weed every single day is because he's absolutely depressed, but he doesn't even have the ability to conceptualize and say, I'm actually dealing with depression, and the reason I'm dealing with depression, or the reason I'm acting in this way, which is depending on vices, drinking and smoking, abusing my body, is because I'm depressed. But the reason, the deeper cause of that depression is the heartbreak that I'm facing because of this breakup. But most men don't even get to that place because they have an unwillingness to observe themselves, to stop and look at themselves and be like, okay, what am I feeling, and then what's causing it? And when you can get to that place of asking yourself, what am I feeling and what's causing it, then you start to look at yourself from a third person point of view, and you now become, you're almost like the detective of your own emotions. So first identify the emotions, then let's look at, and even it's like, you can take a step back before you actually identify the emotions. Look at the actions in your life. Look at the quote-unquote problems in your life. If you're thinking about your life, who you can be as a man, what is your full potential? You know exactly the things that you're doing today that are moving you toward that full potential, and the things that aren't. So look at those things that are quote-unquote problems in your life, and then determine what is it why is the reason that I'm actually indulging in these certain activities? Why am I living out of alignment? And typically there is an emotion that is causing you to. So when we're stressed, we like to remove that stress and anxiety. Typically how we do that is by escaping. We do that through smoking or drinking or playing video games, binge watching TV, binging food, watching porn. All of that takes us out of the reality of the pain that we're facing, and it puts us into this it puts us into this momentary place where we're experiencing a high of dopamine in whatever fashion we're actually obtaining it by. So first, look at all the areas in your life where you feel like you're out of alignment, and then what actions and behaviors are out of alignment, and then let's look at the deeper rooted cause of that behavior. Like, am I really going out and partying to have fun with my friends, or is it really because when I'm sitting at home and I'm by myself, I feel so lonely, I'm so depressed in my own solitude, I'm not used to being without a companion, that I can't even deal with that pain, so I go and escape it by being in a social environment and intoxicating myself. So it's this process of just continuing to build your self-awareness, and vulnerability with others starts with vulnerability with self. So once again, you're looking at yourself, you're observing yourself, and then you're figuring out what is actually causing this. And the reason you need to have this constant process of self-observation is because you being unaware of your emotions is holding you back in every single area of your life. So the reason you're indulging in vices is because you don't know how to handle your stress and anxiety. The reason you're lashing out at people at work or in relationships is because when anger comes on you, you're not able to recognize it and you're not able to control it. The reason you're not able to support a woman is because you don't even understand how to look at your own emotions and understand yourself. So why would you be able to recognize when a woman is having a certain emotion and then in response to that emotion she's having, actually decide I need to show up in this certain way because I've realized I need to show up in this certain way for myself. So you being unemotionally aware, you lacking vulnerability and acceptance with yourself is actually holding you back in all of these areas of life. It's holding you back in your career, your ability to have self-control. It's holding you back in your personal life and your personal development, because instead of mastering yourself, you're actually denying the truth of your reality of how you actually feel, and then you're escaping that through purely suppression or through looking for solutions outside of yourself. And really the only solution, the only way to master your own emotions is to look within yourself, to understand those emotions, and then to uproot the cause. And now, once I'm in this place where I have started to become more vulnerable and accepted myself, that puts me in a place where I can further invest in community and other men who are going to help me continue to heal, but to mature. As you get older, you should be continuing to mature, because personal development is my decision to continue to mature, and my underperformance is typically linked to my immaturity and my unwillingness to mature. So your underperformance is linked to your immaturity and your unwillingness to look at yourself to figure out, what am I doing right now that is not conducive to me moving towards my potential? And once I realize those things that are keeping me from my potential, I either remove them, or I take action to overcome them. And that is the growth process of maturity that's going to help me develop into my full potential on a daily basis. So a man steps into the full power of his vulnerability when he's able to be like, okay, this is how I grew up. I was taught to suppress my emotions from an early age because I was taught to be the tough guy, the guy who never cries. What that caused me to do is, from the time I was bullied to my first heartbreak, I kept everything to myself. I pushed it down and suppressed it, and now I have no understanding of what I'm actually feeling. So I'm going to take a step back. I'm going to look at myself. I'm going to observe myself. I'm going to ask myself, what am I actually feeling? When I ask myself what I'm feeling, I'm going to try to identify what is the cause of those feelings and emotions. And now, once I identify the root cause of those feelings and emotions, I can uproot them. I can take action to overcome them. And now once I've accepted that within myself, I can then go to other men who have walked through similar situations and experiences, and I can ask them for guidance and wisdom on how they conquered those same emotions and how they mastered those emotions in their life and matured and moved forward from them. And that's the path to ultimate vulnerability. And it really starts with that self-acceptance and that self-observation, and the best way you can do that is through journaling and meditation. Every single day you should sit down in the morning. That should be your quiet, undisrupted time, and you should say, okay, how am I feeling today, and what's causing it? What triggers do I have in my life? What are the positive emotions I'm feeling? What are the negative emotions I'm feeling? And what's causing each of those? When it's a positive thing, let me pour more time and energy into those things. If it's a negative thing, let me figure out how to remove it. Let me figure out what limiting beliefs are keeping me in that negative emotion, or let me figure out how I need to show up to overcome that negative emotion. So that's the journaling process. And then the process of actually, well, you still have to get to a place of you can actually understand, oh, I'm angry, I'm stressed, I'm anxious. To get to that place, you need to become aware of your thoughts and emotions. What is that? What is required for you to do that? What's required for you to become aware of the emotions that you're having is you need to become present. So my thoughts are going to bring me to a place in the future, or my thoughts are going to bring me to a place in the past. Both past and future have emotions related to them. It's only when I'm present where I'm able to detach from my thoughts and the emotions, both past and future, that are causing me some type of negative harm. So when I can become present, a great way to do that is through meditation, because what I'm doing through meditation is I'm simply detaching from my thoughts, I'm sitting in my current moment, I'm focusing on my breath, If I have a thought, I acknowledge it, but I refuse to run down the rabbit hole of that thought. When I run down the rabbit hole of that thought, that's when all the emotions come forward. And when that initial thought comes forward, there's going to be an emotion with it. So when I'm able to step out of myself and look at that thought from a third person point of view, I'm now realizing, okay, this is the emotion that I'm having and it's associated with this thought. Now I come back to myself, I have that awareness, and now that I have that awareness that I've built through practicing presence, through the practice of meditation, I'm now aware of the emotions, I'm aware of the thoughts, and now I have the information, the self-awareness to start to dig into those emotions and thoughts. I now have the self-awareness to actually start to play detective on those thoughts and emotions and figure out what's actually causing them, what's the root cause, and what do I need to change, what limiting beliefs do I need to remove, and what action do I need to take to conquer and master this emotion. So that would be my first goal. Is, once again, the vulnerability starts with self. It starts with self-observation and self-acceptance. The way to get to that place is through observing your thoughts and emotions. The way you become aware of your thoughts and emotions is by becoming. The way you become aware of your thoughts and emotions is by becoming present. The way you become present is through meditation, and then the way you actually analyze and observe your thoughts and emotions is by journaling. Put it on paper. I'm going to say that again because that really screwed up my voice or my message, but might put this in a reel. The way you analyze and start to figure out how to master those thoughts and emotions is by putting that on paper and figuring out what are the triggers and the causes. Now that I'm aware. Now once you've done that, you're aware, you've observed. Now what you want to do is find somebody you can confide in who's going to give you wisdom and experience to help you move forward with maturity and with speed. This is why I talked about all these goats, right? They did it with a team. Everything they've accomplished, not everything, but they built the foundation themselves, and then to bring themselves to that next level of greatness, they brought in a team. And it's the exact same with yourself and emotional awareness. You have the ability to be great in a fantastic place where I have true self-mastery. I understand myself. My ability to understand myself is now going to radiate into all the other areas of my life. My personal development is going to be at its peak. My ability to perform and to be cordial with other people in my work environment is going to be at its peak. My ability to be the man that the woman I'm dating needs is going to be at its peak. So to get to that peak, what I want to do is surround myself with men who have walked a similar journey. So what I would suggest is, once you've started to do the self-work, find somebody you can trust and confide in. And now that you've been honest and open with yourself, you can now be honest and open and vulnerable with another man who has walked a similar path. But only once you've said, I'm going to be honest with myself and actually accept what I'm feeling right now, and be okay with that, then I can do the same with another man. So just know that your highest level of self-understanding is going to be found by you getting to a place where first you understand and accept where you are, and then you're willing to look to other people who are going to help you on that journey of healing and mastery and maturity. Your level of self and emotional, your level of self-awareness and emotional maturity is what is going to truly dictate what you can do in all these different areas of life, what you can do in your own personal life. The reason you're not in the gym, maybe you're discouraged, maybe you're anxious about even getting in that place. But if you know, I'm anxious about doing this thing, well, there's no reason to fear. I just need to take action. By taking action, I will overcome that anxiety about being in the gym, and I will eventually remove that emotion of anxiety related to that. And it's the same in your workplace. If having conversations with certain people who are above me in my workplace makes me angry because the only thing they have on me is a title, but actually I have more experience and skills, and that makes me angry, and that's what causes me to lash out. Now I know when I'm having those conversations with those people, I'm aware that typically the response I'm going to have is one of anger. So instead of responding and lashing out in that way, I actually am putting myself in a place where I can be reactive, where I can respond in a way I want rather than being reactive to my emotions. But the only way you get to a place of being responsive to your emotions rather than reactive to your emotions, when you're reactive, all that's happening is your emotions are controlling the way you act, the way you think, and the way you speak. When I'm responsive, I'm aware of the emotion that I'm having. I get to decide how I respond, how I show up, and ultimately the outcome of that emotion. So you want to be in that place. That's going to help you in every single area: physical life, mental life, obviously mental, but it's going to help you rather in your personal life. It's going to help you with people, in your career, in your community, and it's going to help you with dating, and relationships, and family, and being that best man in every single area of your life. So vulnerability is a superpower. It starts with being vulnerable to yourself. It starts with looking at yourself, accepting yourself, putting on the observer, stepping outside of yourself. I'm going to be the detective to start to understand myself. I'm going to accept where I am. I'm going to do the deep work to understand why I feel a certain way. First off, what do I even feel? I'm going to get there by becoming aware of my thoughts and my emotions through meditation, and then I'm going to start to observe and analyze, why do I feel this way, through journaling and putting my thoughts and emotions on paper. And then I'm going to take action to remove limiting beliefs, take action to overcome those emotions, and I'm going to look to other men who I can trust and confide in, who have already walked and experienced the same emotions I have, to continue to help me in my growth, in my maturity, in my place, in my journey to self-mastery and mastery of my self-awareness and emotions. Let's go.